Okay, and I think we are live. Good, we are. Hey, and welcome everyone to the second fireside chat of our community summer camp campaign. For those that have no idea what a community summer camp campaign is, we're basically trying to recreate the feeling that you had when you were young, when you were actually going to summer camp, which probably included a lot of fun and activities and everything else, but probably also was an educational experience. So we're recreating that in a business-to-business webinar series focused on community, hence Community Summer Camp. To help me do that today and to help me cover the topic of building the ideal community team, we have Matt Laurenceau. I think I did well on the last name again. I don't know.
Good job.
Hey, Matt, welcome. Thank you so much. I'll have Matt introduce himself in just a second. I want to say a few housekeeping things before we do. So yes, this webinar will be recorded, and yes, we will also send it to you after it is done and also done processing. So don't you worry. You are still allowed to take notes, obviously, but you don't have to. You can also rewatch it. And if you have any questions in between, just put them in the chat or in the Q&A part of the webinar tool, and I will try and weave them into the conversation as best as possible. That's it. Are you ready, Matt?
Let's go ahead.
Perfect. Then first, I would like to ask you to introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure, let's do that. So I'm Matt Laurenceau. I'm based in France. I've been living and breathing community management for the past 25 years or so now, without thinking about it first, and then it began to have a name on it. In these, especially in these past 10 years, I've been owning and growing a community that is very mature now, where we learned a bunch of things.
Awesome.
More than happy to share lessons learned.
Amazing. 25 years in community. I don't think there are many people that can actually say the same. It's so
I was only a member first. I was not community manager, right? I learned the ropes in the field.
Yeah, exactly. Probably the best way to learn, I think. So maybe a lot of people don't know this, but at Gainside, we always start meetings and also presentations with an icebreaker question. So at this webinar, we will do the same. There will be an icebreaking question. And this one for you, I thought I've heard you say or talk about community with a capital C before. So can you explain to everyone what community with a capital C actually means to you?
Oh, sure. Capital C versus community, no cap. It's about strategy versus tactic. The community with a capital C is what the brand should care about. So that's all the customers and partners and prospects and employees, everybody, the community, the people. Then a bunch of communities with a small c will be launched on a shared branded platform or probably on other platforms, creative and then having cross-pollination. So it's about strategy versus tactics. And each time I'm hearing a tactic about a community, I'm like, yeah, that's very exciting. How does it translate to the bigger picture with a capital C?
Yeah. So like smaller tactical level versus bigger picture strategic level. Indeed. I like that. And maybe we should all adopt that and start putting this into our presentations and strategy decks and everything else. It's quite nice. I like it. And maybe one additional question that I was thinking about. So you just mentioned that you have 25 years of experience in community. So can you explain what is different now than it was, let's say, 20 years ago when you look at communities?
Tools. And you bet Inside it represents that very well, but it's really about what it used to be, and it used to be physical meetings. It used to be people eating pizzas or drinking beers together. Honestly, 25 or 30 years ago, I was part of digital, computer-based, I guess, communities, but the real community was this face-to-face between people. Right now, the plethora of tools actually make it way more complex, because building the right architecture between the tool sets we have to record a podcast here and then to publish it on a community. All those things are can be quite complex, very powerful, but the tool set is definitely changing a lot. Of course, the COVID issues changed a lot of things recently, and indeed the tools are way more important than they used to be.
Yeah, I think COVID definitely sped up a lot of developments in community that were maybe already happening, but now all of a sudden needed to just be there, which I think also made it very exciting. So let's get to the topic at hand. So today we're talking about trying to build the perfect community team, or just building your first community team. And when we dive into that subject, I think the first most logical question to ask is, what in your experience does a community team look like? So what are some of the roles that you need, especially when you're, for example, starting out first? So what is your first community hire? And also, is someone internally just owning the program, or is it a specific hire? What's your advice there when you look at all of your experience over the last years?
Big gorilla question, obviously, here. No easy answer. Various answer would work, and many more answers will fail, depending on each organization. What I at the big picture, what I see as the most important is how your community is federated. Like, you may have a core team of community managers, and we'll talk about breadth and depth, different specialities, and then you need a director, an individual contributor, etc. But how do you deal with a core team and federated teams? Because you will want to have product management buy-in on your community. You would want to have customer success buying on your community. You want to have marketing buy-in, and then shared tool sets like analytics. Ideally, you need to cross all the previous big teams we talked about, but then need to also go with the community, so that we have a full journey of what community members experience. So again, at a high level, core team and federated teams is, for me, very important, so that we don't create an island that nobody listens to. It has to be shared work, shared responsibilities with all the business units and all the internal teams that do partner management, product management, etc., etc. So then, what you said about, I would call it the core team in community, and that core team may belong to customer success, may belong to product management, may belong to marketing, whatever, may belong to CCO directly or CTO, depending on orgs and brands. That core team usually has several pillars. One will be more on engagement, your content and engagement. One will be more on product management. And between you and me, we know that different platform tools may have or not have the right capabilities. So the second pillar is really product management, product managing the community, making sure the community, the experience that you create, achieves what the brand wants and what community members expect, so that they have an easy journey with the whole community with a capital C. You definitely don't want a community member to have a hard time to understand that, I need to search here to look for product documentation. Then I need to search on this other area to see my cases, for example, or then to see discussions and Q&As and crowdsource stuff. So how can we make a coherent, cohesive, seamless experience that where product managers, people who care about product management mastery will excel?
Awesome. Yeah. So that core team that you're describing, can that exist of, for example, just product managers and CSMs doing community next to their regular job, or would you always advise to have a part of that core team being a community specific hire?
Both models would work on different scenarios, that's for sure. What I would usually recommend is to have a community focus with the right federated teams. So if you want product managers or customer success people, they can be the leaders of these community minimal C initiatives, but then it has to be orchestrated with the rest of the other orgs internally.
Exactly. So one person being responsible and dedicated to the overarching community strategy, so capital C, as we said in the beginning, and then people from specific departments, for example, customer success or product management, that are responsible for subsections of that strategy, or community with this lowercase c, if we stick to that.
And indeed, and the best example I've had is, for example, customer success people, CSMs, being highly interested in powerful content on their product communities, because they saw as a no-brainer that it was the right way to engage people. Not hiding their content, but making sure that not only people have easy access to this content, like a newsletter, easy access to the newsletter, and ways to interact, and easy ways to share their own stories. So that's where CSMs started a lot in my own experience.
I think that's a nice segue, because for especially content, if you just ask people why community is experienced as such a heavy load for community teams, I think one of the first things that they always say is content. Like, where do we find the time to actually write the content, get special content for a community? Who should be writing this? Do you have any tips on how you've tackled the content issue, as I'm labeling it now, in the past?
That's a very broad topic. I'll do two parts. First, I'll give a quick check with Bisfashita at BMC, Community Engagement Manager. She's Community Engagement Manager focused at engagement. And she recently tweeted, content is 20% production, 80% distribution. Like, writing the content is tough. It has to be stronger. But then the way you make sure that it's distributed, it's curated properly, that's where it's the most important. So Bisfashita Ras, we'll put our contact details in the notes here. She's wonderful at that. So content is like everything in the community. I have no strong opinion. Content is good when community members tell me it's good. So if I create content that my management or the brand believes is good, but is useless for community members, it's a no-no. So designing the content with these community members is what is most important. What was famous at some point is that the way we created the community is that your community owners were also including customers on our community. They were helping us really shaping and making the community happen. So as much as we can, making sure that content is created, co-authored, or helped by community members, that's always the great way forward.
Yeah, I especially like the co-authoring part. I always like the stories where you would hear a community manager say, like, I have 5 customers that I know that are great. They've been super active on the community. They've been helping me out. And now I asked them, do you sometimes want to write an article about some of the things that you read on the community, or the questions that you've answered? I just think that's brilliant. It's like a community-driven approach to creating content. And being community-driven, obviously a logical thing that you should be doing, and can help out loads, especially with the workload. So maybe one final question around this part, around sort of the program. So I know this is a loaded topic, so maybe I won't ask you to define what the best option is, but in your experience, what department have you most seen own a community?
Dude, loaded topic indeed. So I'll give. Everybody wins. Everybody wins in their own way. The way we've interacted with your product management has been awesome, obviously, because the product manager cares about how is product SaaS or not. But SaaS obviously is adopted by community members. So product management was always a winner. Customer success for everything. Customer success could be the support part, could be academy, your training part, could be services. Very important in a community. Even the marketing side, because the new way to do marketing is really to engage customers, to attract prospects, because a business runs fine when customers succeed. It's way harder to convert prospects into customers when customers are not happy. So a fourth one I'd like to mention is partners. And I know Insided and Gainsight are very interested in partners too. Most modern brands focus a lot on partner engagement. And again, a lot of wonderful success stories here, because partners make or break their success if they can engage with their own community. And that works out really well. On many use cases. There are so many different use cases for partners.
Yeah. Also a great way to actually create content, by the way. Invite partners onto your community and get them to take the limelight or be in the spotlight.
And indeed, and just to mention, because we need to say it, otherwise we would fail, content doesn't have to be only proactive content. Reactive content is wonderful. Obviously, making sure that questions asked by community members get the proper answer, get the right link to the resource where the answer is gold on any community.
Yeah.
So making sure discussions work out fine is really important as content.
Agreed. Thank you for adding that. I think that's very important. Moving on to the actual person behind the community manager. So what are some of the skills or maybe even personality traits that you think are important to be a good community manager?
See, we need 5 hours. You said it. How to summarize that? I'll jump on this community roundtable thing. Your control is for amateurs. But fostering is what creates value here. Very often, I'm a big fan of hire the will, train the skill. People entering the team need to be willing to do something, need to be willing to have a goal that is broader than, resolving cases, or broader than pushing content, or broader than whatever, or even case deflection, way broader than that. So if people care a lot, you want customers to succeed, then indeed they will find ways. There are many tactics to make sure it works out. So the empathy by community managers, I guess, is important. Empathy without suffering and then collapsing under pressure. Empathy, and then the next step is what can I do to help? Like, I happen to know this guy, customer, partner, employee, who can help out. Understanding the real pains, and then helping out, turning quickly to help out.
So it's also kind of a little bit problem solving, maybe creativity, so that because the requests that you might, or the questions that you might get asked, or requests that you might get, sometimes will probably be some that you've never had before and that you actually need to figure out how to actually handle.
Thank you for adding that. Obviously, creativity is so important, because if it was so easy, such a mature practice, then your robots could do it. And we are very far from that. Your robots can do a lot of amazing things. You're automating, helping out, semi-automating a lot of things. Then real people are the one who do the right step, so that it appreciates the benefits.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last one that I was thinking about is also, do community managers actually need to be excellent at handling conflicts? Because the most heard thing still, when you talk to companies that are in doubt of whether or not they should start a community, is, but what if our customers are very negative? And what if what if our entire community will just be threads and threads and topics with just negativity about our, in my case at least, SaaS products, for example.
And it happens. And
Yeah.
Of course, you want the community with a capital C is a set of people helping each other. That's all it is. So some people need to have questions or pains so that others can help. A community of only happy people who are happy about everything, that's nothing. It's useless. So we need people to be vulnerable enough to ask questions to each other, to admit that, yeah, I don't know that thing. And Remco, how can you help me do mass marketing, blah 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 blah, things that I don't know, and then and conversation happens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's right. Sometimes people need to be creative and very empathic, and sometimes you also need to just have someone say it like it is, which I think is also very important. So mostly we see or call that practice of being on the community and reading topics and figuring out whether or not they already have been answered, or moving them to different categories, or like all the actual like nitty gritty work, we call that moderation. And when I started in community, for example, this was all done by moderators. It was actually the first communities that I was a part of, which was like IRC and Reddit and everything else. You had moderators.
Yeah.
And you could actually become a moderator, which I did on certain channels. But what do you feel is the difference between a moderator and a community manager?
Definitely a journey and steps in the evolution. The community manager will be able to do not only moderation, which is your reactive activities based on stuff that happens, but we definitely expect a community manager to also be able to design your proactive engagement, or changing the product for a community product manager. So definitely moderation is really important. If you have a journey, a path in activities, most people will be community members. First to begin with visitors, then they become community members. Some of them will become moderators, and then you build a bunch of other programs like external champions, internal champions, moving along, so that you have various skill sets, so that people level up, and then everybody helps each other. And obviously, you don't have everybody helping everybody. It needs to be kind of an organized pyramid here.
Yeah.
A top-notch external champions will not help a brand new visitor who become a member and who ask a stupid question. But it will help the guy who helped the guy who helped the guy who helped the guy who helps the one asking that dumb question because it's his first day.
Yeah. So
moderator are the start of, I'm not only a member, I'm really doing something.
Yeah. So for example, super user.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So super user is what I usually call champion.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. So a super user could also be a moderator in that case, because they're handling more than just answering questions in that case. I kind of like that, because that's also putting your community at work for your community in a way, which is nice. Have you found a good way, by the way, to get as many people as possible to actually also do that and do more than just ask questions and sometimes answer a question occasionally? So, or building super users, if you will.
Survey data points tell us that we actually have more people going on the community to help others than going on the community to ask questions. So the environment that is created works out so well that people are here to help each other. So even if there is no open pending questions, they learn, these super users or potential super users actually learn from all the question and answers that are being posted anyway. So obviously I've been lucky here, but
Awesome.
the
I don't think I've
environment
ever heard that
worked
before.
out so well that people were willing to help. Oh, why is that? It's not only luck, because we designed the community with them, for them, and they decided the moderation rules. For example, like I decided nothing. I still have some moderation rules I disagree with, but it was decided by enough people in the external champions, what I call them, that sure, let's go with that. Is that what you want the community to be? That's our community, not your. It's our community.
I think that's awesome. So basically, there are a subset of rules, community rules, or ways of handling certain situations on the community that also came from the community or a subset of the community, super users. And basically, they could also be different than what you originally envisioned those rules to be or wanted those rules to be. And then you
Indeed,
just have to be okay with them.
and I'm happy to enforce moderation rules that were decided by the community with a capital C, by the set of people, the top of the pyramid, the set of people who really care, even if my personal opinion may be different. It's okay.
So how do you make sure that you then doesn't that sort of have the risk of losing control over certain things?
Control is for amateurs.
I didn't see you were wearing a control t-shirt.
The community roundtable. This is such a wonderful statement. A community works where people feel that they are listened to, that they are empowered to make stuff happen. And that was the way we did with somebody who is familiar with you here, with Anirban Dutta, for example. Hey, Anirban. That's how we designed things on the community, with some external and internal champions, by the way, helping us on key design decisions.
I think that's very cool. I would actually like to explore that a little bit more, but we need to move on due to time. So I want to talk about starting small, because a lot of Anirban is responding in the chat. A lot of communities these days are sort of, they start out smaller, right? They're not as big as the community that you used to manage or still manage are. So how do you start small with a community initiative? Do you start with just a few customers and talking to them? Do you get a platform first? How do you envision community teams to start out small these days?
Starting from really scratch, that's scary and exciting. You need people. A community is a set of people, so you need people. Then you need people to care about some shared stuff. Then helping interactions with the people creating the initial content will help things to grow. 10 years ago, beers was the only tool that was needed. Well, not enough right now. So do you begin on a LinkedIn group, on a Facebook group, on Twitter, on whatever, on listserv, those email things? That was a lot of things were started like that 20 years ago, and then moving to a broader, stronger platform. As long as people are in the community, then the technology will follow. And there were so many platform changes in those past 10 years and more. The success criteria was really about people sticking on the community and experiencing even more value. So you need initially some technology, and then it evolves over time. And changing platform is a pain. So it's good to pick a platform that will have a journey. You help the next 5 to 10 years for your community with a capital C. You and I had a talk recently in the past weeks around that. When launching a community with a small C around your ideation, for example, for product management, it's wonderful. How does it scale up? How can it be product management also for proactive engagement, also for adoption. And then how can we add quickly some customer success initiative, some marketing initiatives, some partner initiatives? If the platforms that was picked cannot scale, which that's a tough one.
Yeah.
So picking a strong enough platform so that it can help the roadmap for the 5 years is important.
Yeah. So can I summarize that as first you need people, so community members, or the first set of members that actually cares about a community initiative and wants to talk to each other. Then the second thing that you need is to make sure that there is something, could be, well, actually, no, probably not your product, but it could be like something that they're trying to solve using a product, for example, or a pain that they have, or something that they have in common, that they have sort of a shared sense of belonging with, that they feel the same way about. And then the third thing is actually creating initial content, and initial connections, which could just be setting them up on a Zoom call and having them talk to each other, probably at the very simple stage. And then after that, you can think about, okay, how do I actually scale this, and how does this become a bigger strategy with a platform and everything else?
And indeed, and this starts at day zero when there is nothing in the community at all. This starts also each time you need to add a new segment, I guess, in your community. You start with nothing. Like, let's say you have no ideation right now. You have a community that is all about discussions and knowledge base, but no ideation, where customers can't say, "Oh, product A, I'd like, my idea is add this feature, change this feature." So how do you start that? Well, Big Bang never works. How do you make sure that an initial set of people will really care about ideation to work out? And what you described here, people, and then your platform, and then content is the way to work it out.
I like that sort of those stages, because it actually puts the platform last, which is good, because then you need to focus on the people and the community and what your actual message or goal is or something first, which I think is a healthy approach to actually building a community.
And I'd like to mention, of course, a platform is important, so that people can talk. But the important thing is, do we have a market for these kind of new discussions? And having a market means, do we have human beings, individuals who are interested in that?
Yeah.
And then the channel for them to interact, the platform can be found. But first, you need a shared purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. So with very limited time, there are two final things that I want to do. So one is a question from the audience. The question is, as companies are currently downsizing teams, obviously we're in a tough economic situation, let's call it uncertain. Why are community managers especially essential to keep on board at companies?
Community management is all about scaling up a lot of processes. From an operational efficiency point of view, community managers go exponentials on a lot of activities. Think anything, case deflection, think newsletter consumption. Anything that is well designed in a community grows way faster than traditional ways to do stuff. So community management is definitely a practice, a discipline that brands need to continue to focus on if they want to continue to grow at a good enough pace, whatever the economic situation is.
Yeah, I like that. I always think of it in the way that now that money is more scarce and companies are trying to downsize and be more efficient, community has already been an efficiency play for years. It has already been the play that you use to, for example, extend the scale of your customer success team by adding community as sort of a one-to-many channel, or making it the home of all of your content and educational content, and maybe host all of your LMS content on a community, everything else, to scale onboarding or training or everything else. So it's always been an efficiency mechanic. I think that's probably the number one reason why I think it's logical to especially keep community teams on board right now, because they are your key to more efficiency, especially on the customer facing side. Yeah, and then the final thing. So it's a quick fire question. What are your 3 most used features in a community platform, having been a community manager?
Let's clarify that question. Features. Are you talking about interaction model, like discussion compared to knowledge base, compared to
I'm talking
ideation,
about
compared to events?
you logging into a community and then you get to do 3 things. Which 3 things would you do?
So discussions is the no-brainer, like making sure that reactive interaction happens. And that's what I did about 8 years ago, I guess, adding proactive. So starting with reactive interactions, where community members start something, then giving back to community members with a proactive content stream. And at the time, it was with your blogs and content from the brand. So let's start with those 2. So reactive with discussion, then proactive with your blog or whatever. It can be knowledge base or anything that comes from the brand. It's giving back to you community members who decided to interact. Then you ask for a third one. And by the way, I usually call them programs.
Sorry.
Feature. A feature is kind of technical from a product point of view. A third one, let's give a choice here. A third one, if we go reactive, ideation is a wonderful one. Like when people care about discussions, they care even more about ideas that they propose to improve a product. So ideation is a wonderful reactive content program here. If we go proactive, let's say events like organizing webinars like that is such a great proactive program for a community. So you see, you asked me for 3, I give you 4, you decide.
Over delivering. I love it. Thank you so much. We also over delivered on the promise of how long this webinar would take by at least 7 minutes, probably +1 when I'm done with the outro. So first, Matt, thank you so much for hopping on the webinar with us. You have an immense experience in community, and I think you've proven that again today. Always such a pleasure to talk to you. So thank you very much for that. And then also everyone in the audience, thank you for showing up, signing up. Again, we will we have definitely recorded this meeting, and we will send it over to you and also everyone that couldn't make it at the end of the webinar. For now, I wish you, Matt, and everyone else a very good rest of the day. And don't forget to sign up for our next fireside chat, which will be with Katie Ray, xClary now metadata. So that's going to be awesome. Thank you, everyone, and until the next time. Bye.
See you. Thanks.